He raised her alone for 9 years. Tonight, he's taking her to meet the one person he never wanted her to find. She thinks it's just her first concert. He knows the singer on that stage is a ghost from his past. Then the lights hit the stage Powling, and his whole world stopped moving. For 9 years, he kept her secret buried. Then the world's biggest pop star looked into the crowd pad and saw her daughter's face. One name, one look, and 9 years of silence were about to change everything.
If you have ever loved someone so much that you were terrified of losing them twice, stay until the end of this video, because what happened on that stage changed 3 lives forever. Before we start, if stories about second chances and the quiet strength of single parents move you, hit that like button and subscribe, because this channel is built for stories exactly like this one. Daniel Reyes was 38 years old, and for the last 9 of those years, he had been both mother and father to his daughter, Mia. He worked the early shift at a logistics warehouse outside Denver, arriving home most nights smelling of cardboard and diesel, his knuckles scraped from pallet corners, his back aching in a way that 29-year-old Daniel would never have believed possible. But none of that mattered the moment he opened the front door and heard the thump of small feet running across the living room floor, because Mia would always meet him there, arms out, asking the same question she had asked every single day since she was 4 years old. "Did you bring home a good day, Daddy?" "Ta." It was a question her mother used to ask him a long time ago, before everything fell apart. Claire had been beautiful and restless and full of a hunger Daniel never quite understood. A hunger for a stage, for lights, for a version of her life that a small apartment and a baby girl could never satisfy. She left when Mia was 2, not with a slammed door or a screaming fight, but with a quiet letter on the kitchen counter that said she was sorry, that she loved them, and that she needed to become who she was supposed to be. Daniel had read that letter so many times the creases had worn soft, until one day he folded it one last time and put it in a shoebox at the top of his closet, and he never spoke of her again. Not out of hatred, but because there was a 9-year-old girl downstairs who needed him whole, not broken. There had been a version of Daniel once that people would not recognize now. A young man who played guitar badly in a college band, who proposed to Claire on a rooftop in the rain because he couldn't afford anything fancier and didn't think he needed to be. He remembered the early years fondly, in flashes. Claire singing along to the radio while she cooked, her voice too big for their tiny kitchen. Too big, he sometimes thought even then, for the life they were building together. He remembered thinking her hunger for something bigger was beautiful. Before he understood, it was also a warning. When Mia was born, Claire had cried tears of pure joy in the hospital room, and for 2 years, Daniel believed, truly believed, that motherhood had been enough to answer whatever question had always burned in her. He was wrong, and by the time he understood how wrong, the letter was already sitting on the counter, and Claire was already gone, chasing an open mic 3 states away that would, eventually, against all odds, turn into everything. In the years that followed, Daniel rebuilt his life around one single, unshakable priority. He turned down a better-paying job in another city because it would have meant uprooting Mia from her school and her friends. He learned to braid hair from grainy internet tutorials at midnight, his thick fingers clumsy at first, cursing softly under his breath while a giggling toddler squirmed in front of the bathroom mirror. He memorized which stuffed animal had to be positioned exactly where to prevent bedtime meltdowns, which foods she'd eat only if they weren't touching on the plate, which nightlight setting kept the shadows from scaring her. He became fluent in a language of fatherhood he never expected to need alone. And somewhere in the exhaustion and the diaper changes and the parent-teacher conferences where he was always the only father and often the only single parent, in the room something in him hardened into a quiet, unshakable resolve. Mia would never, for a single day of her life, doubt that she was loved completely. Mia grew up knowing almost nothing about her mother except that she had gone away to sing. Daniel never told her the whole truth, that Claire had changed her name, reinvented herself, and become an artist named Skylar Ray, a singer whose face now appeared on billboards, whose songs played on every radio station in the country, whose world tour had just been announced with a stop right there in Denver. Daniel had known about Skylar Ray's rise for years. He had watched silently from a distance, feeling something between grief and fury every time her voice came on the car radio. He never told Mia, He couldn't bring himself to shatter the one good memory his daughter had, a warm, half-imagined feeling of a mother who went away to sing, by revealing that the woman on the magazine covers was the same one who had walked out on them both. Mia, now 11, loved music the way some children love dinosaurs or oceans. Completely, obsessively, joyfully, and more than any other artist, she loved Skylar Ray. She didn't know why the songs felt like they were written just for her. She didn't know that Little Firefly, the song that played on repeat in her bedroom every night, had been written about a 2-year-old girl with copper-colored curls who used to chase actual fireflies in a backyard in Ohio. She just knew that when Skylar Ray's voice came through her speakers, something in her chest ached in a way she couldn't explain, a longing for something she couldn't name. When the concert was announced, Mia begged for weeks. She drew pictures of the two of them at the show. She saved her allowance. She wrote Skylar Ray, Denver, March 14th on a sticky note and put it on the refrigerator so her father couldn't forget. Daniel felt his stomach twist every time he saw that note, but he could not say no to his daughter's shining eyes. He told himself it would just be one night, one concert, a crowd of 20,000 people. The odds of anything strange happening were impossibly small. He bought 2 tickets, not the cheap seats, but as close to the stage as he could afford, because if his daughter was going to see her hero for the first time, he wanted her to see her up close, even if the sight of that woman's face still made something in his chest clench like a fist. The weeks before the concert passed in a blur of excitement for Mia and quiet dread for Daniel. He picked up extra shifts to afford the tickets and a new sequin jacket Mia had begged for, the kind she said Skylar always wears. He said nothing about the resemblance between the woman on the poster and the woman in the photograph he kept hidden in a shoebox. Some nights after Mia fell asleep, he sat at the kitchen table with his laptop open, watching old interviews of Skylar Ray, searching her face for the wife he used to know, and finding her there, unmistakably, in the shape of her eyes and the way she tilted her head when she laughed. He wondered more than once if he should cancel the whole thing. But Mia's joy was a force of nature, and he could not bring himself to be the man who took that away from her. The night of the concert arrived cold and clear. Denver's arena glowed against the dark sky. Thousands of fans in glittering clothes streaming through the gates, the air electric with anticipation. Mia held her father's hand so tightly it almost hurt, practically vibrating with excitement in her new sequined jacket, her hair braided the way she'd seen in a photo of Skylar Ray from years ago, a detail she didn't know was not a coincidence at all, but an echo of her own mother's childhood braid, the one Daniel used to weave into Claire's hair on lazy Sunday mornings, back when their story was still simple. They found their seats close to the stage, near the barricade, Mia bouncing on her toes as the lights dimmed and the crowd roared. Daniel's heart was pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with excitement. He kept his eyes on his daughter's face, memorizing her joy, bracing himself for whatever the next 2 hours would bring. When Skylar Ray walked out onto the stage, the arena exploded into sound. Daniel felt the noise in his ribs, and there she was, Claire, older now, her hair a different color, her stage presence commanding in a way the shy young woman he'd married had never quite managed, but unmistakably, achingly the same person who had once promised to love him forever. He watched her scan the crowd with practiced warmth, throwing kisses, laughing at something a fan shouted, moving with the ease of someone who had built an entire new life out of the one she left behind. Mia sang every word to every song. She knew the lyrics better than she knew her own address. Daniel watched his daughter's face glow under the stage lights and felt his chest tighten with love and grief in equal measure. Love for the little girl beside him, grief for all the years Claire had missed, all the songs Mia had learned from a stranger instead of a mother. Then came the moment reserved in every concert for what the industry calls crowd connection, a segment where the artist waded closer to the barricade, choosing a few lucky fans for a personal moment on the big screens. Daniel had seen it done at other concerts. He never imagined it would matter to him. Skylar Ray moved along the front row, microphone in hand, laughing with fans, signing a poster here, taking a selfie there. And then her eyes landed on Mia. She stopped. The band kept playing behind her, but Skylar Ray's easy smile faltered for just a heartbeat. Long enough for the cameras to catch it, long enough for 20,000 people to lean forward without quite knowing why. Because there, in the front row, in a sequined jacket, with copper-colored curls escaping a braid identical to one she remembered weaving into her own hair as a child, was a face that stopped her heart. She had seen 1,000 fans over the years. She had never seen her own daughter's face staring back at her from a crowd. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Skylar Ray asked, her voice trembling in a way the microphone couldn't hide. "Mia," she said, breathless, glowing, having no idea that the woman kneeling in front of her, whose poster hung on her bedroom wall, was asking a question she already knew the answer to. The name hit Skylar Ray like a wave. Mia, the name she had chosen before she left, the name she used to whisper into a crib in the dark. Her hands began to shake. On the enormous screens above the stage, 20,000 people watched a global pop star's composure crack in real time, watched her mouth open and close without sound, watched her eyes fill with tears she was fighting not to let fall. "Mia," she repeated, quieter now, almost to herself. That's a beautiful name." Daniel, standing just behind his daughter, felt the entire arena tilt. He watched Claire's eyes lift from Mia's face and find his, across the barricade, across 9 years, across every unspoken word in that shoebox letter. He saw recognition explode across her features, shock, guilt, disbelief, and beneath all of it, a desperate, naked longing that he had once known so well it used to be the first thing he saw every morning. For a moment, neither of them moved. The music swelled around them, oblivious. Mia, still starstruck, still unaware that the ground beneath her had just shifted, reached out and touched the singer's hand. "I love your songs," she said. "Especially Little Firefly. It's my favorite. I don't know why, but it makes me cry every time." Something in Skylar Ray's face broke completely. She pressed Mia's small hand between both of hers, and for one raw, unscripted moment, the biggest pop star in the country knelt on a concert stage and wept in front of 20,000 strangers, unable to explain that the song was written for the very girl now holding her hand, unable to say the words that were clawing up her throat. "I'm your mother. I never stopped loving you. I am so sorry." Security began to move, unsure what was happening, sensing something had gone off script. The tour manager's voice crackled urgently in Skylar Ray's earpiece. But she didn't move. She looked past Mia, straight at Daniel, and mouthed 3 words that only he could see. "Can we talk?" Daniel's jaw was tight, his hands clenched at his sides. 9 years of silence, of double shifts, of bedtime stories told alone, of birthday parties where one chair always sat empty, of watching his daughter search magazine covers for a face she couldn't consciously recognize as her own mother's. 9 years crashed over him in that instant. Part of him wanted to grab Mia's hand and walk out of that arena and never look back. Rage lived in him, old and quiet, the kind that had learned to survive by staying buried under work and routine and love for his daughter. He had built a good life out of the wreckage Claire left behind, and some bitter part of him did not want her walking back in and taking credit for any of it. But another part of him, the part that used to love her before love turned into survival, saw the devastation on her face and recognized something achingly human in it, regret so deep it had nowhere left to hide. He didn't answer her with words. He simply nodded, once, and gently guided Mia back to her seat as security ushered Skylar Ray back into the show, her hands still trembling as she lifted the microphone to finish. The set, her voice cracking on every high note for the rest of the night, in a way fans would later call the most emotional performance of her career, never knowing why. After the concert, a member of the tour staff found them in the parking lot, holding a laminated backstage pass and asking with careful politeness if they would come meet Ms. Ray. Mia was beside herself with joy, certain this was the greatest night of her entire life. Daniel felt his pulse hammering as he followed the staff member through. A maze of hallways, Mia's small hand wrapped trustingly around his. Backstage, away from the lights and noise, Claire was waiting alone in a quiet dressing room, her stage makeup smudged from crying. The confident pop star persona stripped away to reveal the same nervous, uncertain young woman Daniel remembered from years ago. When the door opened and she saw them both standing there, she rose so fast her chair nearly tipped over. "Mia?" she said again. And this time her voice broke completely on the second syllable. Mia looked between the crying celebrity and her suddenly silent father, confusion clouding her excited face. "Daddy, do you two know each other?" The question hung in the air like a held breath. Daniel looked at Claire, and for the first time in 9 years he let himself really look at her, not as the villain in his private story, not as a stranger on a billboard, but as the mother of his child, standing, broken and terrified in front of the daughter she had walked away from. "Mia," Daniel said quietly, kneeling down to her eye level, his voice steady even though his heart was in pieces. "There's something I should have told you a long time ago, and I'm sorry I didn't. This is your mom." The silence that followed felt like it lasted a lifetime. Mia's eyes moved from her father's face to Claire's, searching, calculating, the pieces of 9 years of half-answers suddenly clicking into place. The way her father's jaw tightened whenever her friends talked about their moms, the way he changed the subject whenever she asked where her mother had gone, the strange, familiar ache little Firefly always gave her. "You're my mom?" Mia whispered. Claire sank to her knees in front of her daughter, not caring that her expensive stage costume dragged across the concrete floor. "I am," she said. "And I know that doesn't fix anything. I know I don't deserve to just walk back into your life after everything. I was young and scared and selfish, and I let a dream convince me I could outrun the people who loved me. I have thought about you every single day since I left. Every song I've ever written has been about missing you. I never stopped being your mother, even when I was too much of a coward to act like one." Mia's chin trembled. 9 years of a father's quiet strength had taught her how to hold her feelings carefully, but this was too big to hold. She looked at Daniel, silently asking permission for something she couldn't name, and Daniel, throat tight, nodded. "I don't understand," Mia said, tears finally spilling over. "Why did you leave us?" It was the question Daniel himself had never dared ask out loud, the one that had lived in the shoebox with the letter for 9 long years. Claire wiped her eyes, forcing herself not to look away. "Because I was broken in ways I didn't understand yet, and I thought fixing myself somewhere else would be easier than fixing myself at home. I was wrong. I have been wrong for 9 years. There is no version of any stage, any award, any sold-out arena that has ever felt as real as the 2 years I spent as your mother. I don't expect you to forgive me tonight. I don't even know if I deserve forgiveness. But I am asking, if your father is willing, if you are willing, for the chance to try to become someone worth having in your life again." Daniel watched his daughter's face, that face he had protected fiercely for 9 years, and felt the old anger inside him shift into something more complicated. He thought about the resentment he'd carried, the nights he wanted to hate Claire for the life she'd chosen over them, the temptation, even now, to simply say no and walk away, to protect the fragile peace he had built. Revenge would have been easy. A single sentence, "You lost that right 9 years ago," would have ended the conversation and let him leave with his pride intact. But he looked at Mia's face, streaked with tears and hope in equal measure, and understood that his daughter deserved the chance to decide this for herself, not to inherit a war she never signed up for. "She's my daughter," Daniel said quietly to Claire, his voice steady but firm. "Whatever happens between us doesn't matter anymore. But if you hurt her again, if you disappear on her the way you disappeared on me, you will not get a third chance. This is it." Claire nodded, tears streaming freely now. "I understand. I won't waste it." Mia, still absorbing the enormity of what she had just learned, wiped her face with the sleeve of her sequin jacket and asked the question that had been sitting quietly beneath all the others. "Did you ever think about me? Like, on my birthdays and stuff?" Claire let out a broken, humorless laugh, the kind that comes only from the most honest place a person has. "Every single one," she said. "I know the color of the cake your dad probably let you pick every year, because I used to imagine it from 3,000 miles away. I know I don't have the right to say that, but it's true. There has never been a March 7th that passed without me sitting somewhere quiet, doing the math on how old you'd turned, wondering if you looked more like me or more like him." She glanced at Daniel, something achingly grateful in her expression. From what I saw tonight, you got the best of both of us." Daniel felt his own throat tighten at that, the old anger inside him shifting uncomfortably against a truth he hadn't expected to feel: relief. Relief that the woman who had haunted the edges of his daughter's life for 9 years was not, in fact, indifferent. Cowardly, yes, selfish for a long time, certainly, but not indifferent. There was a difference, he realized, between a parent who simply didn't care and a parent who had cared too much to face the shame of what she'd done. And while neither excused 9 years of silence, only one of them left any real room for something to be rebuilt. "I'm not doing this for you," Daniel said quietly, evenly, meeting Claire's eyes. "I want to be clear about that. I'm doing it because she just found out her favorite singer in the entire world is the mother she thought she'd never meet. And I am not going to be the reason she never gets the chance to find out who you could be to her. That's the only reason." "That's the only reason that matters," Claire agreed. In the weeks that followed, nothing was resolved instantly, because real life is not a montage. There were awkward phone calls and missed calls and the strange, careful choreography of a mother and daughter learning each other for the first time. There were moments Mia pulled away, overwhelmed by feelings too large for an 11-year-old to carry. There were nights Daniel sat outside Mia's door listening to her cry, resisting every instinct to march over to Claire's hotel and tell her she had hurt his daughter enough for one lifetime. Old wounds do not close because a famous woman says she is sorry on a dressing room floor. But Claire kept showing up. She postponed 2 tour dates to fly back to Denver for Mia's school recital, sitting quietly in the back row so as not to draw attention, crying harder at an off-key clarinet solo than she ever had on any awards stage. She sent letters, real, handwritten letters, not scripted apologies from a publicist, that Daniel read first, out of old habit and lingering caution, before deciding, one by one, to let Mia read them too. She asked before she acted. She respected the boundaries Daniel set, even when they were hard, even when a version of her old self might have pushed past them. One evening in early summer, Claire came to dinner at the small house Daniel had bought 2 years earlier, the first time she had ever set foot inside it. She stood awkwardly in the doorway of the kitchen, taking in the crayon drawings taped to the refrigerator, the height marks penciled onto the door frame, the small, ordinary miracle of a life that had continued and flourished without her. She did not say much. She did not need to. Daniel watched her eyes move across 9 years of evidence that his daughter had been safe, had been happy, had been loved, and he watched something in her posture soften with a grief that had nothing to do with regret over lost stages or missed award shows, and everything to do with the plain, devastating fact of lost mornings, lost Tuesdays, lost nothing days that would never come back. Mia showed her mother the shoebox, not Daniel's shoebox, but her own, the one she'd started keeping after that first backstage meeting, filled with ticket stubs and a folded set list, and the first handwritten letter Claire had ever sent her. "I keep everything important in here," Mia explained solemnly, and Claire had to excuse herself to the hallway for a moment to cry where her daughter couldn't see, because she understood, with sudden clarity, that she had just been placed inside the same category of importance as a first concert and a first plane ticket, something precious, something new, something Mia had chosen, this time, to keep. Slowly, in the space between caution and hope, something began to grow. Mia learned that the woman on the billboards cried at bad jokes and burned toast just like anyone else. She learned that Little Firefly was written about her, about summer evenings in a backyard she was too young to remember, and the knowledge transformed the song from something she loved without understanding into something she loved because she finally understood it. She learned that her mother's biggest regret, in a life full of sold-out stadiums and platinum records, was a single quiet apartment she had walked out of 9 years earlier. And Daniel, who had spent 9 years being the only steady hand in his daughter's life, learned something too. That strength was not only found in doing everything alone, but sometimes in the harder work of forgiveness, of allowing someone back in not for his own sake, but for the sake of a little girl who deserved every chance at happiness the world could offer her. He never forgot what Claire had done. He never fully let go of the years she had cost them, but he chose deliberately and with clear eyes to stop letting his old wounds decide his daughter's future. Almost a year after that concert, Skylar Ray released a new song. No elaborate music video, no press tour buildup, just a quiet acoustic recording uploaded late one night with a simple caption, "For Mia, always." The song told the true story of a mother who left, a father who stayed, and a daughter who taught them both what real love actually costs. It became the most streamed song of her career, not because of the production or the marketing, but because millions of strangers heard something true in it, the sound of a broken family finding its way, slowly and imperfectly, back toward each other. Mia still sits in the front row at every Denver show now, no longer a stranger in the crowd but a daughter watching her mother work, her father always seated protectively beside her. The three of them still learning the complicated choreography of a family rebuilt from broken pieces. It was not a fairy tale ending. There was no instant, easy forgiveness, no magical erasure of 9 hard years. But there was something better than a fairy tale. There was truth and effort and the quiet daily choice to keep showing up for each other, one imperfect day at a time. Because sometimes the people who hurt us most are given, against all odds, the chance to become the people who finally show up. And sometimes the bravest thing a father can do isn't standing guard against the past forever. It's stepping aside just far enough to let his daughter build a future bigger than the wound that shaped her beginning. If this story moved you, remember to like this video and subscribe for more real emotional stories about the families who fight, break, and rebuild themselves against every odd, because every family story deserves to be told, and every second chance deserves a chance to be earned.